we're going to continue on with thinking about, how about Bryce on a skateboard? And we saw that if you push on Bryce with a constant force, he will keep going faster and faster and faster. But what if Bryce is moving in this direction and you want to slow down Bryce? What would you need to do?
We need to apply less force.
Apply less force. Let's look at this situation. Let's draw a force diagram for that situation. So remember, Bryce is in motion on a skateboard.
Skateboard kan Bryce yogo chhe race.
Please make sure you're sitting in a place where you can be part of a whiteboard drawing conversation.
The shuksa kha shuba ina thanda karbang yosa itam no shu ani thudur che yo athamanyam de de shuro chis.
So you might need to turn around. And because we're missing a few people, we might have an extra whiteboard that others can join. So remember, you're only drawing the force diagram for Bryce. And the skateboard.
Bryce the skateboard
together as one object. You don't need to draw stomatus.
Bryce the skateboard nishan.
Everybody should have their own drawing on the whiteboard. Well, if I'm not moving, there's no friction force. Exert it. Remember that forces arise through interactions between two objects. So you can address this problem by first identifying what are the objects that are interacting with Bryce. And then identify and draw an arrow and label for those forces. Okay. Oh, ginabaso. So this is a good thing to think about because it's a little bit tricky. So here is Bryce.
The Bryce race.
It's almost like a photograph of me.
The didangi par gya schedule rosh dos peje.
So Bryce is moving on a skateboard.
The Bryce the kolo digan do race skateboard digan.
And then Stamatis pushes on me and I stop moving.
Stamatis ki Bryce la bu race. Di bu du gala ani Bryce ga race. Yogu che ma race.
Oops. So Bryce, let's say Bryce is moving this way.
The Bryce ki drag ki chol jura. Di jo do yo chashas pade.
What are the objects that are interacting with Bryce? The objects.
The Bryce nyam do pinju deo chingi ngobo yora. Ngobo khari gari cha de race na. There are 3 objects.
What are the 3 objects?
The ngobo sum do sum ra. Sum di khari khari race. Chik di kolo di skateboard di. Skateboard.
So we're considering the skateboard and Bryce as one object.
Ale da kurani chik himba chashalas ngobo nyam do jar de ra. Yogu chi do nyam do chugora kurani ngobo chik himba chashas. Ani ta khari gorer. Ground.
The ground.
Sa di che ni.
The ground.
Floor.
Okay, well, let's call the ground the floor. It's the same thing.
Da shala da da sala ni chik pa shastra.
I heard earth.
Anchi ki se kola la roasa.
What else?
Ani shimba. Sum yor sum ba ni sa chik. Stamatis.
It's in Stamatis.
Chik stamatis chay roas.
So we have planet Earth,
Tamazu ngarazu isa se kola di roas.
the floor,
Andi sa di yor adi shala di roas.
and Stamatisla.
And stamatis la yores.
So we have these 3 objects interacting with Bryce on a skateboard.
Ta the Bryce skateboard gala yudu gala Quran da pinju deo chingi ngobo disum cha de res.
Do you agree that the only forces that can arise are going to be forces because of the interaction between Bryce and his skateboard and those 3 objects?
The Quran zu gi dig mo tun chigi yelas. Ta yogu che jora di khandes chung law na shuk do di. Bryce the skateboard di ngobo dinju nyam du cheni ta pinju deo chini ani di kujo ta jora di chung reslan kyan zu mo tun yes. Yes.
Okay. So what are the forces that arise for Bryce and his skateboard?
Bryce the skateboard la ya thanda shuk train jora di khari yores.
Give me one, just one.
Frictional force. Frictional force.
Frictional force. So there's a frictional force. Which direction is the frictional force?
Ta darshu yor sung ra. Darshu di khajo khwate res. Behind.
Behind. So I'm moving this way, and it's behind.
Ta thanda darshu jora. Ta Bryce ya dugoi na ma yor sung ra. Yes.
And so we can label this the force of friction on Bryce by what?
Di darshu di yor res sui gan yor la na darshu di khawal gya ne Bryce kan gya res. Kya gen su res.
The ground or the floor, same thing.
Ta thanda shala dila na digo ra da sa di cha yor was.
What is another force?
Ni shuk shamba khari yor res di member. Gravitational force.
Gravitational force. So there's also a force of gravity. What object is that gravitational force acting on?
Ta thenshuk yor la ra. Thenshuk gyasa jugo ra. Di khari kan gya de res. On Bryce.
On Bryce. By what?
Gyagin sures gyasa Bryce la ra. Thenshuk gyagin thengi de sures. By earth.
By Earth. What other forces are acting on Bryce?
Ta Bryce kala shuk shamba khari gya de res. Ma force by Stamatis.
The force by Stamatis. Which direction is that force?
Ta Stamatis ki shuk gya la ra. Khajo khande res di. Towards Bryce.
In this direction or this direction?
Ta khajo ta na phare chu res. Khajo. Okay, mixed responses.
I see a mixed response. How many people think it's in this direction?
The dijo re samgi khajo yes.
How many people?
Shuk dijo gesha samgi.
How many people think it's in this direction?
Samaras ki shuk gyo jora. Andi shuk chodi khajo di. Khajo re sangi khajo yes.
Remember, this is the experiment.
Tache diro athamana sharu chis.
I think most of us now agree it's in this direction.
The mangche motin kharchi lana chodi khajo dijo re shashi dus.
So I will draw another arrow here.
Dele engyo dashimba jithen is.
Yeah. Yes.
One way to decide on the direction of the force that Stamatis exerts on Bryce is to think about what is the force that Bryce exerts on Stamatis.
Ta thanda Stamatis ki Bryce la shuk ji gyu ra. Di khande re la ni ta samlo tang gu na ra. Chi kiran jo samlo tang da khande tang chho la na. Bryce ki Stamatis la shuk li khande gyu du la jora.
So Bryce is coming this way. What force does Bryce's chest exert on Stamatis' hand?
The Bryce dijo gyu ra. Di droy gop se Bryce ki thango di Stamatis la shuk khande gyu res cho. Towards that side, yeah.
This way, therefore, the force that Stamatis exerts on Bryce is in the opposite direction and it's equal in strength by Newton's third law.
Newton ki tentim sumbe tar thanda Bryce chu yungo ra. Bryce ki shuk ki khajo di pha yung bai na Stamatis ki shuk gyu di khajo do de ra chu gyu res and shuk se chik par res.
You know, I realized that I'm not sure how long I should draw these arrows, so I got rid of the arrowheads.
Ta dadi khajo thigu me ha umdulas chesan dadi yukshain sa da kodi.
So maybe you'll help me with that. Maybe they can help me with this.
Ta dai godi thimindo chesan kenan zu roba chiro chistila.
Are there any other forces that we don't have yet in this diagram?
Ta thanda rimuna la ma changwe ya shugindil ha dues. Na dul ha mando.
What do you? I hear a lot of people going like this.
Khari kya de? Skateboard digi Bryce la bigure. Sa digi Bryce la bigure ra. The ground pushes Bryce.
Right. So there's a force equal and opposite to the gravitational force in the upwards direction.
The kiran zu ishe di tenshu roalas tenshu ma thingu ra. Yora digi shuk tandaji ya bigure lagi roas.
So there's going to be an arrow right in my head. And this is a force that's on Bryce by what?
Di Bryce kala shuk dile roas kyagin su cha de res. Sai bola. Sa shaladi by the floor.
By the floor. Are we missing any forces?
Ta thandu shuk ma sang du estina.
Do we have any information that helps us draw how long these arrows are?
Ta nganzu la ne chu in yor res. Digi roba chini ta nganzu dadi thanda go swimming da ringdung di. Khagas thigu gu me ne chu in yor res.
Do we know if the force Stamatis is applying is greater than the friction force? Do we know if the force that Stamatis is pushing on me is at any, do we know if it's bigger than the friction force, same as the friction force, smaller?
Stamatis ki Bryce le shuk ji gegu ra. Di da nganzu dar shuk ji ra. Di ni durwa na shuk de chikpa yore shuk se jora. Chikpa yore yana manga yore kha khepa yore khande yores. Nganzu ha gu yor res di. There is a difference.
There's maybe a difference. I heard some people say chikpa, same.
Khashe I chikpa sungu doa sadina.
I don't think we know. I don't think we know if one is bigger than the other or they're the same.
Di nganzu ha gu mar thandangi ha gu mar sa dus.
I want to ask you some questions.
다 ngarang weni kiranjul tiwa kashish ta yes.
There are 4 forces here.
다 thanda dina ta du gala shuk shi duas.
They're all acting on Bryce.
Shuk shi ja khol gyadore price kan gyadores.
And each one should have a third law Newton's pair.
Ta di shi do shila Newton gi tenjim sumba juya dila du gala khurangi ya chik chik gugu ras cha chaela di yoras.
What is the third law Newton pair for the force of on Bryce by Earth?
Bryce kan shuk gyajo say khole shuk gyajo jora the shu di. Digi ani ya di khandi chai res. It is like frictional force on Bryce by floor.
No, what is the third law Newton's pair of this gravitational force of the Earth pulling on Bryce?
Not frictional force, the force
No,
on
just-
Bryce by floor, he said. Okay.
I'm talking about this
the
one.
pair of this one, right? That tenshu ki ma ten jora Bryce. Digi ta shuk chik cha so ya chik do cha so ya ning gora digi ya sheba juya di khari chagyo res. So they're saying force on Bryce by floor. That's the twin.
So this diagram only shows the forces
Say
on.
kola lagyo shala di lagyo. Okay, so he's saying the pair of this one is the first one. Force on Bryce by floor.
Oh, so this force and this force make the net force in the vertical direction 0, so I don't move in the vertical direction.
Ta kiran so ishe di china di ya di khandir lana dire she ba. Shala ya gyajo di. Okay, there are some of them are saying no, it's not.
Okay. Remember, Newton's law is about how one object interacts with a second object.
Newton gi tentim na la kiran so yos di la du gol ngobo shimba nyamdo pensu dewa khandi chigyo me di roas.
All the forces on this diagram are from only one object.
Ta thanda dina rimuna tyen shagyo jora. Dina shuk tyenjo denzu khari chungyo re ngobo chigal shuk gyajo res.
So the pairs, the third law Newton pairs for each of these forces are not on this diagram.
Cheza ani thanda Newton gi tentim shizung jo ena ya chigyo ra chala. Ya shemba di rimu dina la yo mares.
So for the gravitational force on Bryce by the Earth, what is the third law pair?
Ta price kan la shuk gyajo jora say kule then shugi. Digi ya di khandi chagres cha suya la chigyo. Say kolegi. Salana say kola sumyo. The twin force is the force exerted by Earth on Bryce.
Yes. The twin force is the force on Earth by Bryce.
The role is that the yadi Bryce ki ma say kola ma shugya jodi chagyo ras.
The Earth is pulling on Bryce and Bryce is pulling on the Earth.
The say kola ki ma Bryce thingyo ra the ana she Bryce ki say kola thingyo ras. Dingi cha chagyo ras.
What about the force of Bryce, the force on Bryce by the floor?
Ta thana she Bryce la shugya jo thanda shala jora. Di shugya jo jora digi ya di khandi chagyo res. La Bryce ki masa la gya jo di. The force on floor by Bryce.
Right. So you can see, you can actually just change and you get, that's the pair.
Di rolas digi cha di gugu na ta ya ji yora cha suela. Digi ya gyur gugu ras.
So what about the force on Bryce by Stamatis? What is the third law pair?
Ta Bryce la shuk gya jo Stamatis ki shuk gya ra. Di shuk digi cha ya ji yora cha suela. Di khandi cha yores.
One of you in English, or in Tibetan, but it's, say it out loud, don't just go like this.
Dichibu machis. Chik sungro chis. Yana ingetone, yana pegetone. Dichibu na imba. La. It's just the opposite.
So say it out loud. What do you mean? Express it.
Dishi gyada sagala thandari.
여기 독서여라. 그니 하나
Detail cover list.
하나까지 민식무들아 비점바되기 방글라데시 에스템바디 시접되나 이 점바되나 독서되나 요점은 있다. 요점 비점바디 시접나 독서
S color big gyawa. Okay, so it's just the opposite. So that will be force on stomatis by Bryce.
Right. It's the force on stomatis by Bryce.
Race.
What about finally? What is the third law,
Fair.
Newton pair, for the frictional force on Bryce by the floor?
Taya dhyanan shi Newton ki tindim sumba shisung draw ina di shuk dila yachi gyora cha suela. Thanda shalagi thanda darshu gyora di shalagi Bryce kan gya shora shuk di. Digi thanda cha suela yachi gyora shuk khandi cha de res. Bryce ki shalagala. Okay, force on floor by Bryce.
Right. So those are the four pair forces.
Tadi thanda ngonzo chayue shiora thanda shuk shidi cha de ras.
But again, none of them occur in this diagram because this diagram is only concerning one object.
Ine thanda jesu shi korshe ra shuk shidi. Di shidi di rimun nanda ligi yo mares.
So, how about a force on Bryce by Bryce?
Tadi khande relas Bryce kan la shuk gya Bryce ki. Bryce ki shuk gya di khande res. It's zero. Some of them are saying.
We cannot have a force by an object on the same object.
Ngonzo shuk yongaya yo mares. Ngobo thegarangi ngobo khura rang la shuk gya jora dende yo mares.
Because when we hit, for instance, the force by my hand on my stomach is equal to the force that my stomach exerts on my hand. And so when I think of all of me, those two forces cancel.
Ta thanda pe shawai na ngi di lagba digi thowa shuai nas. Lagba digi sulu shu khaju gyayo na shi thogo di pha shu gyayo res. Ine chachang ngara subu chikta wai na di shuk ngi jora korani phenju se dugo res.
Another way to put this is that Bryce cannot start moving by hitting himself on the back.
Ta tende na thyanan shi Bryce khura rang gyab ni shui draw inai ra ya yogu chitu mares.
So we will never encounter a force which is on Bryce by Bryce.
Chasa dende shuk ji tobe yo mares Bryce khurangi Bryce rang la shuk gya yo jora dende shuk di yo mares.
So we are going to break now for tea, and we will continue after tea.
Ta thanda soja percent ta is ani jesu soja percent jam gyar du chume is.